A very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kunal Sharma, and I'm one of the founders and directors at Mexis. In a post-lunch session, there are a lot of odds stacked against you. One is the odd that, if we go by the spirit of the topic today, I think all of us have to be engaging. Otherwise, we have no right to stand up here on the stage and talk about this particular topic. And the second odd is the fact that, and that's like a permanent odd at least at this juncture of my life, because unlike most of the distinguished gentlemen here, and in fact a majority of the audience also, I don't have gray hair. So I have to make that extra effort to, to sound convincing. Nevertheless, on this particular topic, and it's a very interesting topic because there are a lot of myths related to the idea of blended learning, multimedia content, and supportive teaching tools. And I think roughly in the time that I have available, I'll be trying to dispel 4 myths, because that's the kind of time that is available to me. So the first myth, and this is the most important myth, is that all's well, what's the need? So while it's become fashionable to talk about multimedia, while it's become fashionable to talk about blended learning, there are a whole lot of us within the system who feel, oh, we did well, we came out of a certain system, so, why do our students need anything different? So that's the all's well syndrome that I think a majority of the education system or people who are stakeholders in the education system suffer from. I differ. There are a certain number of reasons why, we should be alarmed at what's happening around us. The first reason is, and these are just certain data points that I can share with you. 2 out of the 5 top populations in the world today are online, unlike 2 decades before. So I'm talking about a Facebook, I'm talking about the kind of population that Gmail is. 37% of the 1,000 richest people in the world are first-generation entrepreneurs. This was not the case 2 decades back. Also, very interestingly, if in 1980s or 1990s, somebody talked about a career called a social media expert, somebody talked about being, somebody working in a BPO, people would not have understood these careers because these careers did not exist at that point of time. So, the third challenge that we face today is that we are teaching our students for jobs which don't yet exist. Because these jobs will be in technologies that have not been invented yet. This was again not the case 4 decades before. Because when I speak with my father, he says that, back in 1960s or 1970s, there were just these 3 or 4 career choices. You could be a CA, you could be a medical student, you could, want to do an engineering, and then there were entrances for these things. But today, there has been a huge generational paradigm shift. The confusion in the student's mind today is not how to do what I want to do. The confusion in the student's mind today is what to do. The number of career options today are so many that, I could just decide to sit on my chair for the rest of my life and write a thesis about it and possibly make money out of it. Because that's the kind of world that the world is changing into. So in this world, whereas teachers, we don't even know what is the kind of world that our students are going to walk into 10 years hence, we cannot hope to adopt the same kind of pedagogies that we did about 2 decades back. So with that case in point, I move to the second myth, which is more connected with the idea of blended learning. Now again, it has become very fashionable to talk about, the moment we say blended learning, okay, there is a certain picture that comes to our mind. That picture has a certain ICT or a smart board. That picture has a certain PC kept in the classroom. That picture has students sitting in a theater style, just the way we are sitting right now, again, in which the onus of being a performer is on the teacher. Because when you're sitting in a theater style, the teacher has to be the performer. But that's the picture that comes to our mind. But then, the idea of blended learning is to use, and as Sir also very effectively pointed out, is that God has given us 5 senses. In most of what we do inside our classrooms, we use only 2 senses. So very few times would we, possibly only in our laboratory periods, which is again questionable how often it happens and how engaging it is, we get to use our tactile senses. Only in our chemistry lab do we get to use our sense of smell. So the point is, if we have to look at blended learning, of which, of course, when we started Mexis, this was one of the first thoughts in our mind. Let us take education beyond, the regular multimedia tools. So for instance, one case would be that we took the idea of a curricular textbook and we said, what if we convert this curricular textbook into a comic book? So, let's say we take a 6th standard science textbook, we convert it into a comic book. The same kind of comic books that we've grown on, maybe a Tintin or an Asterix kind of a comic book, which associates a certain context to the content that we have to absorb. When we did this for, one of the first 3 classes that we made this particular curriculum-related comic book for, one phenomenal thing that we saw was that when we gave this particular curricular comic book to students, they read through their entire science textbooks in exactly 2 days, which is what happens with comic books. As against that, you give the science textbook to the student, they'll take the entire year. They will go, read 1 chapter at a time because that's the chapter. These are the better students, or the so-called better students. The other ones won't even bother to read the textbook till 5 days before the exam. So just by changing the context of a very regular teaching method or a teaching pedagogy, you're able to create a huge difference in the kind of interest that the student has in terms of absorbing that particular content. We furthered this idea by creating a whole lot of educational tools or educational DIY kits which go by the name of iCanJoy. And of course, you're welcome to come to our stall and see some of these things. But the idea, again, was to take it beyond just regular multimedia. Because while we do regular multimedia, we do feel that, within a classroom, there should be a lab. Within a classroom, there should be a library. And today, technology has made it possible for us to explore that particular possibility. So if I want to, have a library, I need not walk down aisles or probably floors and go to another library. If I want to have the laboratory inside my classroom, there is a possibility that I have a couple of kits kept in the classroom, and in between periods, I can go and access that kind of learning method. Moving to myth number 3, and this is again something that we've heard reasonably often, which is that great content can be an alternative to chalk and talk. And this is one of the reasons why, and we are one of the players in the ICT market, we see the ICT solution not really working very well with a certain number of schools. Because the perception that comes is, the moment you have multimedia tools inside the classroom, your job is over. As the teacher, I feel that my job is over. Life for me is hunky-dory. I will just walk into the classroom, switch on a certain board, sit beside, students will learn, they will pass their exams, and I will have to do very little. Which is not really the point of any kind of intelligent classroom, of any kind of a classroom which has multimedia in it. The entire idea behind bringing different methodologies, and this might sound a little audacious to a whole lot of people in the educational arena, but the idea behind adopting different pedagogies is not to make teachers' lives simple. It is to make students' lives simple. So in the beginning of any kind of a paradigm shift, if I'm shifting from a certain pedagogy to another pedagogy, obviously as an educationist, at least for a transient period, for a temporary period, my life is supposed to become a little more miserable because I'm trying to understand or learn something new. My life will become simpler after I have learned that thing. So it's like giving you a new kind of a smartphone. If I give you a new kind of a smartphone, possibly for 2 or 3 days you will keep on dilly-dallying with the smartphone, trying to figure out what are its functions. If you don't learn the functions, the smartphone is a smartphone, it's a tool. It will not start giving you results by itself. But if you go about the process of learning the functions and features of that particular gadget, that gadget will start helping you. So, and this is one of my favorite quotations which says, but then, teachers who don't adopt technology, what is the hope for them? The quotation itself explains that particular concept. It says that technology cannot replace teachers. I can't invent a machine that can come up here and speak on the stage. But if I expect that, if I don't learn stuff, things will not change, I am wrong. Right? And that's what it says. The teachers who don't who use technology eventually are going to replace teachers who don't. So at some level, we as educationists need to change our approach. We have to stop looking at engagement by content. If I ask a student today, tell me what was the architectural structure of Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, something that we learn in our 8th or 9th standard, 6th, 7th standard history, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around that time. Why should the student be interested in knowing it unless I attach a certain context to it, unless I revolve it around a certain story? So somewhere as teachers, we have to understand that the context becomes more important than the content. And that's why, if somebody slaps me in the middle of the night and tells me how to play a cover drive, I will wake up and tell them how to play a cover drive. But if somebody asks me what happens when, NaOH reacts with H2SO4, I will go back to sleep. The difference between both of them is that I've played with a certain thing and I have studied with the other. And studying, according to Gardner's theory, is the worst way of learning. पढ़ना सीखने के लिए सबसे बुरी चीज है. The best way of learning is possibly to play with it, because playing has a certain context. That context is winning or losing, which is the most powerful context. Moving to the, and another very interesting, this is a small thought experiment. A lot of times people talk about the fact that, unless there is 3D content or unless there's a whole lot of content inside our classrooms, how will students learn? This is just a very small thought experiment which says that if a school has about 30 teachers, if the teaching time per day of teachers is 4 hours, out of those 4 hours, if teachers spend 20% time board writing or writing with a chalk on their board, then that, the total board writing times comes to be about 0.8 hours a day. The total board writing time per year comes to about 158 hours. This is a normal Excel sheet calculation.
It's okay. Yeah, you please carry on. You have limited time.
Yeah, it's just the last thing that I'm talking about. So even if we don't go to that particular slide, which I don't know where it's gone. So, about 160 hours per teacher per year is the amount of board writing time spent by teachers in an average school year. If you multiply that by the number of teachers in a school, and if you keep a very, very conservative tier 4 city's salary to a teacher, which is 12,000 rupees per year, the school spend on just board writing is about 9 lakh rupees. Now, if you have a simple solution, like, in a maths classroom, even if there are PowerPoint presentations made around the stepwise solutions of formulae or of different kinds of exercises that teachers do, in that scenario, a teacher would not have to go and repeat their board writing time in section A, B, C, D, and E, F. Because if they have that tool, they will not be facing the blackboard, they will be facing the students, which is obviously a better thing to do. So, the kind of multimedia tools that are available, and of course, math tool is one of the tools that we've developed with this particular thought, where the idea is that, it's not important that you only look at 3D content or 2D content or different kinds of content. You look at different kinds of tools which essentially are time saving or they're cost saving. On that note, I think, this is the kind of time that I have available. There is this particular TED Talk speaker who put a very thought-provoking statement in one of his educational speeches, in which he said that it's time that the education system looks beyond learning ability. It's time that the education system starts looking at learning agility, because that is what is going to matter 10 years hence, more than your IQ, possibly your learning agility, your ability to adapt is what is going to matter more. And I think multimedia tools, contextual engagement is what possibly can get us there. Thanks a lot. Thank you.